The affairs that occurred in a household in Soweto with a just tribunal set up by a liberation movement in a foreign country perhaps, or even inside the country, something that was actually accepted by the movement. Those two are quite different things. And I don't think that we can accept an individual like Winnie Mandela making a decision, or anybody else for that matter, making a decision about whether someone can live or die.
The role of the individual and individual morality is essential because reconciliation and forgiveness can't be about groups and sweeping political statements. It's about the individual as well, if it's about establishing some kind of morality. Given that, it's also important, if we understand it in that context, that we must see that individuals had choices. Whether they were easy or difficult choices is another matter, but individuals have choices. And unless we bring it down to the level of the individual, then we take away that important aspect of it. So in every action, I do believe that one must look at it from the perspective of the individual as well.
There are no just or wrong wars, but there are just or wrong causes. And then there are the means used to struggle for this cause, as my colleague was pointing out. And there is, according to me, always the individual's personal responsibility and morality. Morality, and not politics, have taught us during our often brutish century that sometimes it is a sin to obey. To obey orders does not discharge the individual from his moral responsibility. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, to me, is a unique opportunity to define what was just and what was not. And in South Africa, the Commission generously gives to the individual the chance to come to terms with his doubts. And if individuals don't use this chance, I do think that they should face prosecution, as they would have to do at an international criminal tribunal.
There is wide national and international interest in the Mandela United Football Club hearings starting tomorrow. Winnie Madikizela Mandela also thrust herself into the spotlight once again this week with a stinging attack on her own party and its government. She was harshly rebuked by Sports Minister Steve Tshwete. The background to that squabble is the looming elections for a new deputy president for the ANC. But tomorrow's hearings are only about finding out the truth about past human rights violations.
I think it's important to place on record the reason we had these Section 29 inquiries is because that was the first part of the investigation process into allegations made about the involvement of Mrs. Mandela and members of the football club. These have been in statements made by victims who've come forward to complain about human rights violations. Mrs. Mandela herself, at all times, once she was subpoenaed, called for a public inquiry. And the Commission was quite pleased to accede to that request because we also saw it as an opportunity to allow people to come forward to testify who've never actually testified in the trials that have taken place. And so one wanted to get a perspective from all the people who have knowledge of the activities of the football club. But I want to reassure people, we're not tied into any of the political processes. We haven't been influenced by any of the parties, but we think that it's very important for us to have this hearing because it is about gross human rights violations, about people who are on the other side of the struggle, not people who have been involved in state unlawful activity.